Good morning, you beautiful souls. Welcome to your morning messages. Happy Monday. You're here with me, Michelle, and on my channel, which is called Awakening with Michelle Thornton. I help you along your journey because it can be scary and you can feel bonkers. I am just opening sacred space. This is Palo Santo. You can Amazon it. I have an actual Amazon list in my description box of all the cards I use, all the books I have, spiritual texts that I think you should read, that I recommend, that helped me. Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, please come into the space right now. Please bring forth all the messages that everybody needs to hear. Remove any other energies that are not welcome. And keep us safe. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so as I was getting ready, I felt guided to look at an old video that I created from my mindfulness program for my students. It's called 30 Days to a More Mindful Heart. I'll link the website below. So if there's any parents out there, homeschooling parents, anybody that runs an after-school program, this 30-day program is awesome for your kids. It's for 3rd grade all the way through 12th, and it's 30 days. It's a self-run program, so you can just hit play on me talking to your kids about all things life, about kindness, gratitude, compassion, forgiveness, how to love themselves, how to breathe, how to see their anxiety as their friend. So this morning, for some reason, I was guided to one of my episodes, and I felt like the universe was wanting me to talk about it in my morning messages. So this episode is called See the Light. So we're going to start off. I'm just going to quickly show you a clip.
Live your life for the rest of you might need
Wrong clip.
Things and to see the light through it, your life will completely transform. All right,
this is the question.
When you look back at your life, can you recall situations turning out way better than you expected? Here's an example.
Go into the whole thing, but for some reason I was drawn to that question. And I end up talking about how, in life, people get divorced, there ends up being breakups, there's loss. And it's like, how can we find the good in the situation? Not so much when it's past us. Normally it's easy to find the good looking back, but I was teaching my students how to find the good while it's happening. Meaning, how can you embrace the darkness? How can you be in it and not be literally like emotionally dying? So looking back at your life, thank you. If you look back at all the times where you were in those situations where you just felt like everything was not going to work out, right? You're in your fear, you're thinking about the future, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going to get the money to create this thing I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill for my car. I don't know how I'm going to survive this breakup. And then if you look back and see what happens immediately after those situations, and that's what I was always really good at. People used to say that I was too sensitive, or I paid attention to signs and I shouldn't pay attention to signs. And I don't say that with like a sassy face, meaning like, if you don't follow signs and then you're a bad person. No, this is my personal experience. And for some reason, my soul, ever since my daughter passed away, I was just, the signs actually, I'm gonna cry. For me, those signs kept me alive. Like getting a heart on a Wednesday afternoon after crying for like 7 hours, wishing I could have my daughter back, that kept me going. I would get a sign and feel like she was here with me. Full moon energy. But anyway, I just feel like without those hearts and without those signs, I don't know where I would be. And the old me used to get so triggered. It felt like knives all over my body when someone would talk like crazy about signs, or they would say like, you're crazy for following signs. I wanted to be like, are you kidding me? You have no idea what I've been through. And I was so angry, and I just was so triggered by it. But now I just see it as they don't have my experience. They don't understand what it's like to be in my body, to literally hold your baby as they're dying. Like how could they possibly understand that feeling? So for me, on my sad days, which is today, I guess, like if I get a heart during this morning messages, or if somebody will DM me while I'm doing this right now, and they'll say, hey, thinking of you and Micah. And that just makes me feel so loved. And that makes me feel like she's sending me a sign saying she's okay and she's with me and she doesn't want me to be sad. But speaking on this topic of looking back at my life and when I didn't think I could live another day, and I just was so in my emotions and I didn't know how to be happy. And I was the best at faking it. I was so good at faking it. And for those of you who are watching, I'm so sorry. I am so oblivious right now to the fact that you probably have no idea what happened. Sorry. So I had a daughter in 2012. I was with my partner him and I were together for about 8 years, and we decided to start a family. We were super blessed. Got pregnant around the first few tries, and my pregnancy was great. They told me I was having a boy at my 18-week appointment. The boy room was done. The boy clothes were in the closet. And everything was great. I did the little like chalkboard updates with my belly getting bigger, and I love being artistic and creating. So I would create like maybe I'll throw in some photos as I'm doing this. Maybe I'll go edit this video. I loved creating like beautiful chalkboard updates. So that was like my thing. And then 3 days before I delivered, I had an ultrasound because they said I was measuring very big. And my boyfriend was 6'2". So we were kind of like, I'm just going to have a big baby, you know? Well, she did the ultrasound and she's like, wow, she's really swimming around in there. And I was like, nope. I was like, no, we're having a boy. Sorry. His name's Micah William. And she was like, there's the vagina, sweetie. You're having a girl. So I immediately was like type A back then. I was not a free spirit. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be in order. And that was also like childhood trauma of mine. When there was chaos in my home, I would go and like clean my room and keep things organized. And like, that was my way of being safe and protected in my own body. So as an adult, I hadn't done my healing yet. I was not awake. So for me, safety meant things are in order and I know what to expect and I'm in control. And not being in control, being pregnant, number one, you're not in control of your body. That was one of the hardest things for me. I threw up every day for like the first whole trimester, so bad that I was hospitalized 3 times. So I say now that it was Micah's angel powers, but I was like, I'm never having another kid. I'm not doing this again to my body. I can't control it again, type A. So I'm at that appointment and she tells me I'm having a girl. And I just keep thinking like, I'm not prepared for this. I'm a new mom. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Now I'm having a girl and I was planned. Everything was like being uprooted. And then when Micah was born, it was fun. We surprised my family. They didn't know about the gender revelation, I guess you can call it. So we were like handing her to them and we're like, she's a girl. So that was really fun. But she was born with a muscle disorder and she was at CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, for about 6 weeks. Every single day, right after my C-section, I was walking and going there, which was really draining. And my body was exhausted. She couldn't take the boob. So I had to pump and she had a feeding tube. She was on oxygen. So for about 6 weeks, every single doctor came in to diagnose her and nobody could figure out what it was. It wasn't muscular dystrophy. It wasn't any kind of typical myopathy. And around my birthday, August 19th, she started to decline. She was born July 13th. And at this point, like I was blogging about it. There's a blog called We Heart Micah, if you ever want to go read it. And I blogged about it at night. I would go home and pump, would get home at like midnight. I would pump around like 2 a.m. and I would write a little blog post. I remember I'd be eating like Swedish fish, which was probably so bad for the milk that I was creating. But I was just so devastated. I'm like, what is happening? Like, first I thought I was having a boy. Now I'm having a girl. Now my daughter is not well. Now I'm like going to the hospital, pretty much living at CHOP. And I was 29 years old at the time, turning 30. And I just was like, what is happening? Like literally, I felt like I couldn't find the ground. And then it got worse. And then the doctors all sat us down at a table. She started to decline. So she could move her arms and legs a little bit, but she just had trouble keeping her secretions, like the saliva in her mouth and any kind of like reflux. She had trouble keeping that down. So the oxygen in her nose would help blow air down to keep her airway clear. But she started to have these episodes, which, holy shit, NICU nurses are angels. I don't know how they wake up and go there and do that every single day. Like they were reviving babies while we were there. And a couple times it happened to us, and to see that and to be so helpless that's when it started to get serious. Because at first we were like, okay, we have a daughter with a muscle disorder. It's okay. She'll be in a wheelchair. It's okay. We just hope she's cognitively there. And she was. We did get tests done for that. But like it became serious when she started to have these episodes when she needed to be revived. And yeah, like I'm just shaking even talking about it because it's so like it brings me right back. Like just waking up every day and just being like, this is hell. Like, what? So like I woke up this morning in my bed and it was like quiet and I was like feeling my sheets, and I just was so grateful to not be in hell. And then I thought about the people with the tsunami and what they're dealing with. So I'm always like, in my personal experience, my gratitude comes from my experience with Micah and feeling so out of control and feeling like I just was in hell for a short period of time. And it wasn't even that long. Like some people deal with that stuff long term for years. They watch people suffer. And just to watch your baby just go through all these tests and to not get an answer, and then to see her decline, and then to move forward with the story. About 7 or 8 doctors sat us down, and then they mentioned quality of life. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, like we're bringing her home. It might not be in a year, but we're bringing her home. And they basically said, with the way that she's going, it looks like she's declining, and we just want to prepare you. And we want you to, decide what you want to do. Do you want to take her off of the oxygen or not? So that was a huge, huge decision to make. So we took some time. We took a couple of days to think about it. And then I did not want her suffering, not another minute. She was poked, she was prodded, I just felt like, and she was taken care of. Don't get me wrong, CHOP is amazing. And the nurses I still keep in touch with, and they're so sweet. They always buy me things with hearts on them because they know that Micah sends me hearts, my signs, wherever I go. But when I see a heart, I think about this whole story that I'm telling you right now. So I'm sure you can see why I was triggered when people say signs aren't real, or why do you follow signs so much? Like, get in reality, live in the real life, whatever it is. You can see why I'm triggered, because they have no idea what that experience was like for me. They can't jump into my mind and know that, but now I can have compassion for them because I know this, and I'm awake to, I'm not in my pain anymore. And I can see that they're not capable of understanding that I have a story. And now I see that everybody else has a story. And that was one of the huge lessons that this taught me. So thank you so much for listening. I feel like I just wanted to pause and say that I know this was not my intention for this morning, but as you guys know, my morning messages flow. I just go with whatever comes through. And I was guided to watch that clip from my program about how when you look back at your life and you see that and you think that everything's going to be bad and you don't know how you're going to survive, look at what I'm doing now. I survived it. And that would have been about like 10 years ago. Micah would be 10 in July. And it's just this, everything always works out for us. And we have to start believing that. So right now, if you're in your grief, if you've lost somebody, if you lost a job, if you're having to make a big decision in your life and you're going to hurt other people, you can do it. There is literally a rainbow on the other side. You just have to take the step and walk through and do it. And with my story, like we sat at that table, we decided, like, let's take her off of the oxygen and see if she can survive, because I do not want her suffering anymore. And it was on a Wednesday. It was August 29th around 10 a.m. We took her off the oxygen and we spent the whole day with her. And they gave us like a little like hotel room type of with like a queen bed and a rocker. And the whole time Micah was alive, I could never take her away from the crib. She was all attached to wires and tubes. So I couldn't just walk around with her and just like be a mom and do mom things. So that last day was awesome. I was able to lay on a bed with her. I was able to just like, I don't know, it was just really cool. And all of our family came up to the hospital to kind of say their goodbyes. They said she could survive a week without the oxygen. She could survive an hour. So it was kind of like a hospice situation where you're just not sure. And the hospital provided a photographer, which was really awesome. I think it was called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. I think that was the name of and I still remember her name, Stephanie. She was so great. They did black and white photos of us with Micah on that last day, even up to like close to a couple hours before she passed. So the way that we would know that she was about to pass was her breathing would start to get a little like muffled. And they would give her some medicine to help soothe that so she wouldn't feel anything. So she was on morphine, which was really comforting to know that she wasn't suffering anymore. Like I was just no more tubes on her. You know, like one day I walked in and there was like an IV in her scalp because they couldn't find a vein in her arms and because her veins were so tiny. So like when I remember walking in that day and I just lost it, 'cause I just think about like a needle in your scalp and I'm just like, she's such just a little precious little baby. Like I just wanted to take her home and just make her be healthy and talk about how God and the universe was providing me with this opportunity to not be so perfect, to go with the flow, to not be so type A that everything has to be in line. And what a beautiful lesson to learn, right? It was freaking torturous and it was hell, but like look who I've transformed into. I can go with anything now. I do not plan things. I am spontaneous. I don't know what I'm doing next week. And I love that freedom. I mean, we all want freedom. And freedom comes with that clip that I showed you, with understanding that when something bad is happening and you don't think you can get through it or you can't see the light in it, you can. You can relax and surrender and say, universe, change me into a man or woman who can see the light, who can see the lesson in this. What is this teaching me? How is this stretching me? How is this growing me? Show me how I can survive this. And if I can survive the loss of my daughter and that hellish 6 weeks, then you guys can survive anything. So there was one piece that I forgot to mention that I wanted to hop back on and add this little clip in there, but I never really shared what happened and how my daughter was diagnosed. So after we got that, we had that sit down at that table and we took her off of the oxygen on August 29th, 10 a.m. That's when we took her off the oxygen. She was okay all the way until about 6:16 p.m. And she took her last breath in our arms, and it was beautiful and it was painful. And it was a very, very unique experience. For the next hour, it was very unique. So I wanted to share this because this is something that I didn't know that they do at the hospital. And I thought it was really beautiful. And for me as a mom, it was like a really nice experience. So the nurses asked me if I wanted to give my daughter a bath after she had passed. And at first I was like, no, like what? No, like I didn't want to like hold her little body, you know, when she wasn't breathing. But they mentioned it's very therapeutic and it's helpful. And so I said yes. And I got to give her the cutest little sponge bath on the bed. And I got to savor her every ounce of her body. And I got to spend time with her. And I thanked her. And it was just a really nice goodbye, or see you later. And then after we gave her a bath, we had to leave the hospital, right? So like nobody ever really talks about this stuff. Like, what do you do? Like, what are the steps you take? Like, where does she go? And it was so comforting that one of our favorite nurses, Bree, she ended up staying. She stayed later that night because, I mean, it was after her shift, but she wanted to be there for us. And so as we were leaving, like I had to hand her over to somebody else and know that it was my last time holding her. So I got to hand her to Bree, which felt so good. And I'll never remember, like, it was like a movie, like walking out of the door and just looking back. And now in my spiritually awakened body and mind and heart and soul, I just know that that wasn't goodbye. It was just like oh, hey, our relationship is going to be a little bit different now. You're not going to see my physical body, but I'm still with you. You're going to see hearts. You're going to hear music. You're going to feel my presence with you. You're going to hear my name. And it was just, when people transition, it's just a change in the relationships. They're not gone. They are not, it's just not a negative thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience. So like, obviously I believe her soul had already left her body when we were giving her a bath. And even before that, I believe our soul kind of like parts and it's just the mechanics of our physical body that start to dwindle near the end. I like to believe that. That's just my lens that I like to see life. But I know she was in that room with us that whole time. She was making us feel so deeply and experience that shared unconditional love that we have for one another. And I often think, like, I just wish I would know how she would talk, like what her voice would sound like. Would she like candy like I do? Would she have a cute little big butt? Would she, have dark hair like me? I'll never know those things, but that wasn't our path. That I'm not supposed to know those things. All I know is that I can feel what I feel, and others might not understand that. But if you've lost somebody, you know what I'm talking about. That feeling that you get when you yearn for them, when you're crying for them, when you just miss them. And it's just this, like, I always grab my chest when I think about my grief, because that's where I hold a lot of it. And I just want to like rip off my clothes, not to be inappropriate, but that's the feeling I get, is I just want to be free. And I just love when other people hold my chest. It feels so safe and so good. But anyway, that experience of giving her a bath changed my life. And I'm so glad I said yes. I almost said no. And I'm so glad that I said yes, because it was just an opportunity to connect deeper into what I had just experienced and to feel completely full with my departure of the hospital that night. And then, so when she passed, she was not diagnosed. We had no idea still what myopathy she had. What was it? Like, was it something I did in my pregnancy? I know I took a couple Zofran when I was super, super nauseous and throwing up all the time. So I did take some medicine, but they say Zofran is healthy during pregnancy, but is it? So I often wonder, like, was it something in my body? Was it, a vaccine I got as a kid that affected or mutated my genes or something? I don't know, but about 4 months later, I think it was in December, we got a letter in the mail from CHOP saying, hey, we've diagnosed your daughter via a muscle biopsy. So they took a little snippet of her quad muscle and they sent it out for testing, and they found out that she had something called Nemeline myopathy. And there's two types. I think one's genetic and one's not. And I found out that I was the one that's not genetic. So if I did want to have more children, I would be safe too. I'm still nervous too, but it's definitely like comforting to know that we finally found an answer to what it was. And I believe it's like 1 in 50,000 babies are born with this myopathy. So it was completely part of her path and my path. And I believe it was divinely guided. I believe it was meant to happen. Obviously, I would not be here doing what I'm doing, living my life the way I'm living it, and guiding so many others through their pain and through their grief and through their awakening. So it's all perfect in the end. Back then, if you would have said that to me, I probably would have punched you in the face. And that's why I try to be super gentle with the way I speak about grief, because I know that somebody else might be in that stage of the grief where they're like, shut up, you don't know what I'm going through. And we have to say, you're right. It's your pain. It's closest to your heart. I wouldn't even dare say to another mom who lost a baby at 6 weeks or 2 months old, around there, I wouldn't even say to her, I understand, I had the same thing happen. No, we don't say that. We say, I am so sorry for your loss. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. I want you to know that you're safe and you're loved, and I'm here for you. We don't bring up our pain. We don't compare. We don't immediately share our pain when somebody's sharing their pain. We hold space and we listen. And that's another beautiful lesson that I got from my grief and my daughters. She taught me so many ways to handle and be gentle with other human beings. And I'm really proud of the woman that I am today. And I get to give that to kids too. I just wanted to quickly share that with you guys. All right, back to the video. We are given these opportunities. I see it now as an opportunity for me to transform who I am as a person. I believe that Micah came into my life. Here she is. Look at those eyes. Hi, baby girl. I feel like oh my gosh. You guys know how I always say my cards match my outfits. Fuck. We match. I love her so much. Thank you all for holding space for me to cry and to share. And I'm really grateful I have this channel that I can express myself on and maybe help somebody else who's grieving. I need a tissue. But thank you so much. It feels good to talk about her and to share her and to, I don't know, kind of really appreciate how far I've come. And we can all see the light with and I feel like what's happening with the world, we can understand that like there's something good coming from all of this. We have to have faith. I have complete faith in everything that's happening out there with the virus, with natural disasters, with whatever. I completely know there is an underlayer of spirituality. It's going to stretch us. It's going to grow us. It's going to force us to change how we live our lives. And it begins by us hearing messages like this today and seeing that, wow, how can I be a better person? How can I love my experience more? How can I love my neighbor? How can I love a stranger more? How can I see that who knows what they're going through? You know, we all put on this smile, or we all put on this like mediocre demeanor, and you walk by somebody and you just have no idea what they could have just experienced. And for me, that experience with my daughter was life-changing, like life-changing. And a lot of parents don't survive. They don't survive the loss of a child. If you think about it, there's no name for it. You know, there's a widow, a widower, it just shouldn't happen, but it does happen. And we have to talk about it and we have to offer support. So if anybody out there is in the similar situation as me, whether it's your child, whether it's a family member, a sibling, a parent, you're not alone, and your grief can be your gift. Your grief can be showing you what you came here to do. I always say your pain can be your purpose. Whatever you're experiencing that's painful in your life, see it as an opportunity in that moment. See the light and say, how can I use this to help me survive the rest of my life without that person? And I wake up every single day alone. I don't want to say alone as if it's a negative thing, but I wake up with myself, knowing that she's not here, but I'm doing the thing. You can't just crawl up into a ball and stop living. She sacrificed. What I was going to say before I got tissues, I just remembered, was I feel like she came into my life for a short period of time to wake me up. I have this channel, Awakening with Michelle Thornton, because of her. She came in and woke me up. The day that she died is the day that I woke up. Granted, it took me like 7 or 8 years post-loss to actually go through my spiritual awakening and actually start meditating and doing my mindfulness practices, doing the cards. I was not doing that right away. Those 7 or 8 years was me surviving. And then I started to thrive once I hit my spiritual awakening. And I'll talk about that in maybe another video, when that started happening and what physically started happening to my body and my mind. I felt crazy. I felt like I was self-destructing. But my grief was really like, I just was waking up each day, and it was a success if I was just breathing deeply. I had posters and things on my wall that just said, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, because the pain was so intense and you don't want to feel it. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want people jumping in your phone saying, I'm thinking of you. Like, I was so angry sometimes, but then other times I'm like, nobody's messaging me. It was such like a freaking free for all. I didn't even know what I needed, and people hated watching me suffer, and they couldn't help me because I couldn't help me. I didn't know. So just recently I wrote an ebook about grief. I wrote an ebook about all of this. I didn't go into like crazy detail, but it's filled with tools on what you can do to survive this and how you can see it differently, how you can work with it and move through it, and how you can open up your body to feel deeper. One of the tools that I recommend in the book is to sit in front of a mirror when you're starting. Like right now, if I was not doing this and I started to feel that emotion, and I would grab her photo and I would sit there and I would maybe sit cross-legged on my living room floor. This happens often for me. And I just yearn for her. I just sob and I just want to hold her. And then I'll put the photo down and then I'll look at myself in the mirror and I will cry so hard. And I will see myself. I'll talk to myself and say, Michelle, you're doing such a good job. You are so loved. You are not alone, and you're doing it. You're here, you're breathing, keep going. And I talk to myself in that mirror. So if you're going through a divorce, whatever it is, and financial struggles, and you feel like you don't have the answer, you sit your ass in front of that mirror and you talk to yourself and you tell yourself how great you are. And you tell yourself that you see your pain. And I would often say, and I still do this, I often say like, I see you. I see your pain. What you've been through has been so hard, and you're allowed to cry. You're allowed to take the day to do nothing. You're allowed to rest. And we have to build that connection with us. We have to literally be doing it with ourselves. And then what we do is we grab our phone and we ask a friend to come over to hold space for us. And holding space just means somebody's sitting with you, whether they're holding you, whether they're rubbing your back while you're crying, whether they're putting their hand on your heart and just saying, I got you, like, let it out, like somebody just sitting there holding you and energetically holding you. And when you are seen in your grief, and when you are seen in your like pain, it feels so fucking good. It feels so good to have someone put their hand on your heart and say, I see you. I'm putting my hand on my heart right now for anybody that's crying with me during this morning message. I see your pain. I see you, and you're doing great, and you are loved, and you are safe. And let that shit out. Get it out of your body. You are worthy of feeling that, meaning it is a gift. You are alive. We are spiritual beings that jumped into these bodies. And guess what we came here to do? We came here to feel everything. We came here to eat, to drink, to enjoy the experience, to be intimate, to hug, to kiss, to lay in bed and listen to the rain and have music playing, to light candles. We came here for all of it. And guess what else you came here for? You came here to experience pain, because guess what the pain is doing? The pain is allowing you to see your capacity to love. So for me, when my heart was ripped open, I started to love everything a little bit more. My nieces and my nephews would come over and I would start to play the grateful game with them, because I wanted to now teach them what I learned. I was like, okay, shit can be taken from you overnight or literally in 6 weeks, or 9 months pregnant and then 6 weeks and then boom, everything's gone. It's like the whole year didn't happen. It's like I'm left without my prize at the end of that grueling year. It's like, where's my prize? When you're pregnant, it's kind of like you can't wait to get your prize at the end. And I was like, where the hell's mine? And so playing the grateful game with my nieces and my nephews, teaching them to pause, breathe, be present in the moment, and then think about one thing that you're grateful for. And the things that they would say were really funny. They would always say, like, I'm grateful for, when they were like 3 or 4 years old, I'm grateful for firefighters. They save cats and trees. Or I'm grateful for rain because it makes the trees grow and it gives us more oxygen. My little niece Eva would always say that. But being able to use your pain that you're feeling as you're sitting in the mirror crying, and you're seeing that, oh my gosh, because I came here in this lifetime to experience life, I came to experience this pain. So now I'm seeing it differently. Now I'm not in my victimhood of, why did this happen to me? Why did I have to be the one that lost the baby? No, I am proud to have had that experience with her, because she showed me my capacity to love. Because now look how that was a ripple effect. And it taught me how to be with my nieces and my nephews. It taught me how to be a better teacher. It taught me how to meditate. It taught me how to go within and to see that life is a gift, and we have to see the light, and we have to understand that bad things are going to happen. But then what do we do after it? How do we cope? And that's why I was so passionate and am so passionate about teaching in this way, or whether it's in the classroom or with my online program, is kids need to learn that bad shit is going to happen regardless. We cannot just shoo it under the rug, but what do you do with it? How do you hold that pain, and how do you use it to generate movement, momentum in your life to keep going? We need to be taught how to do it. And I was not taught how to do it. And that's why I'm super passionate. And that's why I created this channel, Awakening, called Awakening with Me, because people don't have these tools. People don't have the ability to see why bad things happen and how to cope with it, and then how to use it to drive them into what their special gift is, what their special talent is. And then how do we cultivate that and embody it, and then live it and share it, and then inspire other people with it. So I don't know why, but I feel called to like not pull cards today. I hope you guys are okay with that. I feel like this was just maybe a message for me and Micah today, to share our story and to encourage you all to see the light, to shift your perspective on why something bad would happen, and not so much think about why, but what's the lesson in it? Where can I grow from this? How can I be better? How can I love deeper? How can I find compassion for other people and what they're going through right now? And maybe that's the lesson we all needed to hear today. So I hope you guys enjoyed these morning messages. I'll probably end up doing like another video with cards later this morning, but right now I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go cry in the mirror, because this is surfacing in me and I want to release all of it. This is healing. When you cry, you heal. So anytime you are crying, give yourself space to do it and allow it to be here. And that is how we navigate grief, is we don't judge it. We see it when it's surfacing and we say, okay, you're here. Like I woke up and I didn't have an ounce of sadness, and then this just all happened. So it's here. So I'm going to sit in the mirror and address it and love myself through it. I'm going to talk to Micah and talk to my dad who recently passed, and I'm so happy that they're together. So I'm sending you all so much love, and I will see you in the next video.